And the kids have a pizza party in Lexington. And one of the kids asks, her name is Vadima Lupescu, and asks Vadima, they also give her a cool nickname, Lulu. So they ask Lulu, when you're not slaughtering pigs back in Slovakia, what do you do for fun? And she said in broken English, I sometimes read palms. Ooh, so why don't we do that now? So she begins to read palms of some of the kids in the room, and something very weird happens. She suddenly bolts, looking at somebody's palm, bolts, I can't do this anymore, and takes off from the party. And then a few days later, bad things start happening to friends and the family of friends, and that's when the rumors begin to fly. Rumors of the title. She is of Romani background. Romani are dark-skinned people from northern India who had migrated, transient people had migrated into Eastern and Western Europe and eventually settled in, but there always were kind of outsiders. So the kids are talking, Romani, aren't they really gypsies? Yeah. And don't gypsies put curses on people? And in olden days, didn't they spread diseases like the bubonic plague? And did they drink the blood of Christian babies? And don't they pray to Satan? And aren't they really witches in disguise? So I exploited all the nasty, denigrating myths of Romani people, and that is the what has eventually turned her into an outcast. Witches were dealt with in the Middle Ages. Some 50 to 80,000 witches were burned at the stake. And so the same mindset of these kids was also reminiscent of the hysteria of 1692 when in Boston and Salem, 19 people were executed for witchcraft, 18 by hanging, 1 by being pressed to death on the Boston Common, and almost all of them was said, swear you are a witch. And good wife Biddle, I had another book I wrote called The Stone Circle, I had some scenes in 1692. Good wife Biddle, a very real person, said, sir, I do not know what a witch is. And she was executed anyways. And eventually, 2 years later, Samuel Sewell, who was the presiding judge, sent out apologies to the family, but 19 people were dead. The cover of the book shows a, let me borrow this, John, shows a profile of a woman and a skeletal, like an x-ray of a tree. This is in Lexington, and the host family had built, the father of the host family had built the kids a tree house. And Lulu loved to go sleeping under the stars, as she did back home in Slovakia. And on a Halloween night, she goes to sleep in the tree house, in the tree, and it catches fire, and she perishes. So drawing from the lore of witches, poor Lulu went up in smoke. That is kind of where the story came from. Waukesha, Wisconsin, Slender Man tales, and kind of exaggerated and explored and put it through my squeeze box and came up with this story. So Stephen King goes to Utica. I got a Waukesha. Please, questions. Questions. Yeah. Anything you want to ask?
How long does it take you to write a book?
What's that?
How long did it take you to write a book?
How long did it take me? Well, I'm now retired, so it took about a year. Usually it took a year and a half to 2 years when I was teaching full time, and so this came a little quicker. Yeah, the second one's already done, and I'm halfway through the third one of the series. What's that?
Do you put time in every day?
Yes, the older you get, the less sleep you need. So I get it between 4 and 5, and after reading the headlines and emails, I usually go from, say, 6 o'clock to 5 o'clock, take a break to go work out or go for a bike ride, But that's my daily. That's my daily. And if Kathy and I don't have some social obligations, I don't have to do shopping or whatever. I just write nonstop. And it's amazing when you get in that zone. You almost forget what time. My goodness, it's 4:00 in the afternoon. I've only here for 20 minutes. But But and when it's working, it's great. Other days, I'm looking at the screen is looking at me, and no one's doing anything.
So Gary, you're saying you work 11 hours a day?
I would probably work about, 10
So what do you write, like one word an hour or so?
Yes, but it's the same word over and over again, so I can fill the whole page. And some days are good and some days aren't. Yes.
How much input does an editor actually have? Like, do you work with them, or do they say this really needs to be altered? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, this is the 10th book, and I don't send it in until I am absolutely sure it's humming properly. I mean, you never finish a book; you meet a deadline. That way, I can go back into this book and pull out words and put other words in. It's just the way it is. But editors are usually, the editor I had in this book was more concerned with agreement. Well, how old is this person? You said it says 16 on the cover, but she really comes at 15. Little things, driving a BMW versus driving an Audi, those kind of things. At one point, I did get caught on something. I have kids using cell phones and taking videos. You couldn't use a cell phone to take videos 19 years ago. So I had to go back and find what cell phone could do rapid singles. A Nokia, I forgot the number. And thank goodness I could find that, because that was crucial to some clues. But it's, I've been, words in my business, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've been teaching kids how to write. So when Kathy gives the approval, my wife, and maybe one other person, then I know it's ready to go in. And the editing is kind of not too bad. Yeah.
So you said that you were asked to do something as part of a series. So does that mean that Kurt and Mandy are going to reappear in the next one?
They're going to reappear.
Okay.
Yes. The secret of a good detective novel is not just detection; it's the character of the detectives.
Okay.
And one way to endear readers to a detective is to give them baggage. Give them demons, something they're suffering from. Because that brings out the empathy of the readers for the character. So I make my detectives, the main characters of most of my books, people with a lot to lose. Kirk, who is probably the first Armenian-American detective in history, Kirk Lucien is married to Olivia, and he's absolutely crazy about her. But a year or so before the book opens up, their daughter was killed in a hit-and-run accident while going to the bike path I mentioned. And I looked into relationships, marriages of families who have had kids who had died, and oftentimes the marriages fall apart. There is the depression, and there is blaming, and all this kind of thing. So at the opening of the book, there are two quests that every protagonist had. Well, for cops, quest one is who left that body in the opening paragraph of this novel. And that's the professional quest. And you put together the clues and you nab the villain at the end. The personal quest is where you get the empathy from the readers. The personal quest is, I want my wife back. I want to be whole again. I want my marriage to be whole again. So he is up against this. He's been married to Olivia out of college. She has never dated another guy, so now she begins to step out, and she changes her hairdo. She's getting ready for divorce court. So he is in a state of disquiet throughout the novel. I want her back. So that story develops. Mandy, I made her a woman married to a woman with a child, and so she is in a profession of traditionally straight males. And here she is, a lesbian. She's very smart, she's very dedicated, and because of some bad stuff that had happened to her as a child, she joined the force because she wants to bring justice to women who were abused by men. And there's other personal stuff. So she's got her professional baggage, and he's got his personal baggage and her personal baggage too. And by the end, ideally, if both quests overlap at the end, they come out at a better place since the beginning of the book. Yeah. Other questions, please. Yeah.